Our next presenter is Colin Capitan, and our next inductee into the South Dakota Sports Hall of Fame is Lisa VanGoor. Lisa VanGoor. A 1980 Yankton High grad, VanGoor was the first female to be inducted into the Colorado University Athletic Hall of Fame in 1999. The 6'3" center is still the all-time leading scorer, rebounder, and shot blocker in Colorado basketball history, and she did that despite missing more than half of her senior season due to an injury. She averaged 18 points and 10 rebounds in her career. A three-time all-conference selection and all-district player for the Buffaloes under Coach Sox Walseth, she made Colorado one of the nation's top teams. Twice she was finalist for National Player of the Year. She played on 3 national teams, in the World University Games in 1981 and the Jones Cup in 1982 and 1983. Before women's pro basketball started in the United States, VanGoor played professionally in Spain, Italy, and France for 7 years. At Yankton, VanGoor helped Coach Bob Winter's Gazelles win 3 state Class A titles.
I'm sorry, I'm not one of those that can read a speech or do a speech without reading, so bear with me. Sorry to my broadcasting brothers. Thank you to the South Dakota Sports Hall of Fame for this honor. It comes at a perfect time in my life when I'm truly old enough to appreciate it, but not too old to need assistance getting up to the stage to accept it. No matter how far I've gone from the state of South Dakota with my basketball in my life, South Dakota has always been home to me. So this is a tremendous honor for me and my family, many of whom braved the weather to be here tonight. I'm very honored to be joining this very prestigious and diverse class, and to be joining my fellow CU alums who've been inducted before me, Carol Hardy, Sox Walseth, and Bob Stransky. These are 3 gentlemen that had a tremendous impact on athletics in South Dakota and in Colorado, and I'm very proud to share this honor with them. I want to acknowledge some of my family and friends who are here this evening. I've been very fortunate to have had their support over the many years, and I'm so glad they're here. My brother Tony, the good doctor from California, and my brother David from Delaware. Thank you so much for traveling such a long distance. My sister Val with her husband Denny from here in Sioux Falls, with her kids Derek, Katie, and Lindsay with her husband Scott. My sister Jackie with her husband Dave from Yankton. Oh, I'm sorry, Dave's not here. I want you to know, Jackie, I always admired the way you stood up to Coach Winter and decided not to play basketball. I don't think Coach Winter ever got over the fact that the tallest girl on the basketball court was in a cheerleading skirt and not basketball shorts. And I must admit that I am not the most famous VanGoor in the state of South Dakota. That distinction belongs to the voice of many a high school and college team in South Dakota, the much acclaimed sports broadcaster, Joe VanGoor, with his wife, Shelley. Also here is my cousin Ron and his wife, Tina, from Brookings. Thanks for braving the weather as well. I also want to acknowledge some guests who you've already met this evening, who made the trip from Colorado to be with me. Joe Walseth, son of Sox Walseth, and a very brave soul who with his brother and his friends scrimmaged against our team on many occasions. Fortunately for Joe, he escaped rather unharmed and never had the pleasure of meeting my elbows. Joanne Walseth, Sox's widow, who's been an absolute joy to be with. Sox was very fortunate to have you be a part of his later years. My significant other, Bob Bowers. Bob played as well for Sox at CU. He likes to brag that if we averaged our career scoring at CU, that we would both average 1,400 points. Somehow that doesn't seem like a good deal for me. I've turned him into a women's basketball fan and a big supporter of women's sports at CU, though he'll never admit it. He's a shameless bragger of my accomplishments at CU and never hesitates to tell anyone who will listen. Thanks for being here to share this honor, but you're not gaining any of my points. And Mom, you thought I'd forgotten about you. I was very fortunate to have a mom who wanted all of us, and in case you haven't noticed, there's a lot of us, to choose our own paths and be successful in our own ways. The path was not always smooth, though, in the beginning of my basketball career. It took Coach Winter a little prodding to convince Mama that if she allowed me to play basketball, that my college education would be completely paid for. Thankfully, she was convinced and went on to become the single most supportive person in my career. She also taught me that it's okay for a 6'3" woman to wear high heels. Thank you, Mom, for all your love and support. In the beginning, I was convinced to start playing basketball when I entered my freshman year at Yankton High School by Diane Heemstra, one of the best shooting guards the state has ever seen. She had moved to Yankton from New York City, and she started every game she ever played at Yankton. This was 1976, a year after South Dakota had sponsored its first state championship, thanks to Ruth. I went through junior high always the last one picked for any team in PE. Maybe that was just a little part of my motivation. People always talk about how their success came with lots of hard work and dedication, and there's no doubt that that contributed to my success. Of course, there are coaches, teammates, support staff, and family that contribute as well. But success, I think, also comes with a little bit of luck. How fortunate was I that I ended up being coached in high school by not only the best girls coach in South Dakota, but in the nation. We often look back at our lives and remember those people who had a tremendous part of shaping our futures. That person in my life was Bob Winter, and unfortunately, he can't be here to hear all this. Somehow he saw potential in a tangle of arms and legs, and he pushed me into becoming a player. There were many times I wanted to quit, especially my freshman year when I couldn't cross the half-court line without tripping over it. But Bongo wouldn't let me. He would continually challenge me to become the best because he knew that's what I wanted for myself. He took me from being a total non-athlete to being the girl from South Dakota that college coaches across the nation started taking notice of. Knowing Bongo, and I'm sorry he isn't here, he'll never take the credit for giving me my start, but I feel like I really need to thank him for opening the door for me. Through basketball, I was able to travel and experience the world and have a self-confidence that I never had before. Thanks, Coach Winter. And while I have this opportunity to recognize people, those that influenced my life, let's talk about Sox Walseth, another great South Dakotan. Sox inherited the women's program after the coach who recruited and signed me at Colorado left for another job. Sox had been the men's coach at CU for 20 years and absolutely had no experience coaching women. But don't worry, my teammates helped educate them really fast to the world of coaching women. I had been released from my letter of intent in Colorado and was looking at other schools such as Nebraska and UCLA. He made the trip to South Dakota shortly after being named the coach to talk me into staying at CU. He made an immediate impression on my mom that hot July day when she asked about academics. Sox replied, "Academics? She's there to play basketball." I think it was not until after my CU playing days that my mom finally talked to Coach Walseth again. Many of you knew Sox, understood his dry sense of humor and his flair for the dramatic, especially when he faked a heart attack after I passed the ball out in practice. Not everybody immediately understood his sense of humor, like my mom, but it was that sense of humor that made playing basketball fun. He allowed me to come into a program that was dominated by upperclassmen and start, something that's hard to do these days. Along with my South Dakota teammates, Diane Heemstra and Chris Hawarda, we had quite a run back then with Sox. In his 3 years with the women, we never lost a home game and made 2 national tournaments. Those days playing at Colorado were the best years of my life, and I have Sox to thank for it. He never forgot a game, a road trip, and a certain run-in with a certain referee, even when we were all with him those last few years on Earth. He was the reason me and my teammates got together often. Sox, I wish you could be here to share this with me. And there is another person that is noticeably missing from these festivities tonight. And make no mistake that if he was here, the room would be aglow with pride and joy. The South Dakota Sports Hall of Fame honor is dedicated to you, Dad, my #1 fan. You and Sox must be having endless cups of coffee at the Perkins up there in heaven, talking about how cool this all is. Once again, thank you to the South Dakota Sports Hall of Fame for welcoming me back to South Dakota to accept this honor.